House will vote on renewing a controversial NSA program that allows warrantless surveillance. The program, set to expire on January 19th, has had privacy advocates in an uproar. Our own General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategist, is here now to talk about this big vote. I don't know. This sort of scares me a bit, General.
Well, first of all, the 702 legislation is absolutely necessary. The heart of that legislation means we're conducting surveillance of foreign assets who are potentially doing harm to the United States. And that law was not in place prior to 9/11. So Mohammed Atta, who was moving around the United States and talking to Americans, we had no basis to track what he was doing and conduct listening surveillance of him. Now we have that capability to do that, whether he's overseas or wherever he is. The amendment, what they want to do, if an American asset is involved, in other words, the foreign potential terrorist is talking to an American for whatever the reason is, that they want to have to go into a FISA court to get permission to be able to monitor and surveil that conversation.
Do you see this impacting average Americans?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Other than protecting them?
Yeah, I mean, the law is there to prevent a repeat of 9/11, and it makes infinite sense to me. And I know people get all worked up about the potential of the mysterious NSA monitoring our emails and phone conversations. That is not going on, and we should disabuse ourselves of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to try to play Judge Napolitano, but I mean, he has an op-ed about it today, and he's one of the people that is, and to Maria's point, privacy advocates in general, libertarians and others, they do make that point, and they say that, I think it was the judge who wrote in his op-ed that, you know, for this president to have gone through what he is said to have gone through during the campaign, where he feels as though his campaign was unlawfully or, you know, spied upon in a way that wasn't right, that it's interesting that he would support something like this. That's what the privacy advocates say, you know, so, but you don't think there's anything to that.
Well, there's a theory out there, and it's not factual, that NSA has all of our phone conversations and they've got all of our emails. It's just not true. Yeah. Now, phone service providers, telecom providers, they've got everything already is out there.
Right, but they don't share it. I mean, that's why that's why this former CEO of Quest went to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
He says that the government asked him to share information, and he wouldn't.
But, you know, I mean, there's natural tension in an open democratic society like the United States is, with global responsibilities and with people trying to kill us on a regular basis. There's tension between certainly privacy and also protecting the American people.
And that's what Joe Nacho was faced with. Anyway, I want to turn to the protests in Iran. Get your take on this, because White House officials are calling for the Iranian government to release detained protesters after reports of torture. I'm not surprised here, but what are your thoughts on the White House?
Well, first of all, let's just say that this protest is very different than 2009 because it cuts across the political and social contours of the entire nation. It is about the regime. It is about their squandering money. It is about the loss of economic opportunity in the country. It's not about a rigged election, which was 2009, and elitists were involved in that. This is affecting the entire country, 80 cities, 3,500 people in jail, over 20 people killed. And they're clearly trying to repress this protest as much as they possibly can without repeating Tiananmen Square or what they did in 2009 when they cleared the streets with guns. But absolutely, we're doing the right thing. One, identifying ourselves with this movement. Number two, pushing back on the Iranians for repressing human rights inside this country, and also for their very aggressive, malign behavior in the region.
What odds would you put on the fact that this could lead to some actual, real, lasting change, up to and maybe including some sort of change in the regime in Iran? What odds would you put on that right now?
You know, I would put something on it. I think the fissures here, the Iranian regime is not going to be able to recover from it. They're going to be permanent because it is targeted against Rouhani, who's supposed to be a moderate, and against the supreme leader. And that has not been done before. So there's damage done to the credibility of the regime. Now, I'm not suggesting in the next few months we're going to have a regime change, no. But I am suggesting that this regime, for the first time, has been seriously wounded.
And it appears as if the Trump administration will not move, at least now, to reimpose sanctions on Iran, which would essentially eradicate the nuclear deal. So, again, to critics of the president who charge that he is rash and erratic, this is a a move that would show that we're going slowly in dealing with Iran. Because the danger is if the Iran deal falls completely is eradicated, then you do have Iran on a path to a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. And look, we know what they've been doing with the money in terms of any money coming into the country is supporting terrorism. I want to get your take on the Pakistan story, though, as well, because the Pakistani senior official is warning now that the U.S.'s recent tough talk, stopping money going to Pakistan, the aid to the country, could end up pushing Pakistan closer to China as an ally. Your take?
Well, first of all, let's be clear about why this is taking place. Since 2001, when we deposed the Taliban and their leadership fled the country, they fled to two locations in Pakistan, the Haqqani network in a place called Miram Shah, and the Taliban leadership to a place called Quetta, both in Pakistan, safe havens. The Pakistan military, indisputable evidence, I've seen it myself, has provided intelligence on our operations to both of those networks. In other words, they are assisting the Afghan Taliban to kill American soldiers and to kill Afghan soldiers and Afghan civilians. That is the heart of the problem. For 16 years, we've had two presidents who've been unwilling to deal with this issue.
And we just keep giving them aid?
Yes, and we give $33 billion in aid we've given them, Maria. Now we have a president who's saying stop.
Of course.
Now, are they going to go into the hands of China as a result of? They're already there. China's going to build a Navy base in Pakistan. They made that decision months ago. China's already giving them aid. If China can compensate for this money that we've been giving them easily. What we have got to do is get Pakistan's attention and shut down those safe havens. And here, one more thing for our audience to understand. There has never been an insurgency defeated that was able to have a safe haven outside the combat zone. Never. And we've got two of them here. And it's got to stop, or we have no hope to actually come out with a favorable ending in Afghanistan.
Really interesting stuff. It reminds me of when the U.S. government began going after ISIS and not going to their safe haven.
Oh, right.
Not going. Obama didn't want to go to Syria and Raqqa. He instead went to Iraq. Because there's this rumor floating around that President Trump has continued President Obama's plan, and that's why ISIS is defeated. That's not true, is it?
No, it's not true, because we went right for the safe haven when the Trump administration took over. Is what Obama should have done back in 2014. 3 years later, we finally took it down. But by then, what had happened? ISIS became a worldwide iconic brand. They spread into 30 countries. They attacked NATO 40 times, either inspired,
40 times attacking NATO countries.
9 NATO countries, total 40 times, to include the United States. Yeah. Either inspired, directed, or supported attacks.
There's more to this story, and we're going to get to it. I want to keep talking about that because it is extraordinary what's going on in terms of ISIS being on their heels at this point.